Right.
Okay.
That was good. I really like that.
Yeah.
So what is a consciousness that heals, and how do we develop it or get in touch with it or recognize that it's already there? Our basic premise here is that a state of consciousness that heals exists without any care of your acknowledgement of it. It's simply there. And it will always be there, has always been there, and you cannot make it not be there. However, you can refuse to engage with it. Now, those who do engage with it will have the ability, because of their consciousness and the clarity of it, to provide healing in our world. And if you've looked at the news at all, you know that our world is in need of healing. See, the healing that needs to happen is that consciousness that recognizes there's not an us and a them, there's only the one. And when we get that there's only one, then there's nothing left to heal. But we have to get everyone recognizing there's only one. And then all of the discord will be healed. In The Science of Mind, Dr. Holmes writes, each partakes of the Christ nature, and to the degree that the Christ is revealed through him, and to the degree that he becomes the Christ, we should turn that living presence within, which is the Father in heaven, recognize it as the one and only power in the universe, unify with it, declare our word to be the presence, power, and activity of this one. If we could stand aside and let this one perfect life flow through us, we could not help healing people. This is the highest form of healing. Now I'm going to read the last couple of lines because they're potent. If we could stand aside and let this one perfect life flow through us, we could not help healing people. Period. Healed. Done. If we just get our bloated nothingness out of the way. See, almost all spiritual traditions have a story like the one about Daniel in the lion's den. For those of you who don't know this story, I will tell you. Daniel, with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, got thrown into the fiery furnace.
I can sing that song for Methodist Church.
Do you want to? No? You're such a tease, Bev. They're standing, they're being told that they have to bow down to Baal. They refuse, and so they are thrown into the fiery furnace. And they simply stand there, unsinged. Even their clothing, unsinged. Because they have this consciousness within themselves that says, this fire is not more powerful than my God. And when your consciousness is stronger than the situation you're in, you don't have to be defined by the situation. So, I'm guessing that each of you have probably had someone in your life who you could walk into wherever they were and you just got zen. When I was in ministerial school, my dean, who was a doctor of science of mind and a Zen Buddhist priest, had the consciousness. You would walk into his office, he would invite you to sit, and he would just look at you for the longest time. And then he would close his eyes. And you learned not to speak until he spoke. And by the time that he opened his eyes and said, "What's on your mind?" what was on your heart was no longer a problem. He just had this way of allowing you to release everything that was defining you in that moment and come back to the consciousness that heals. I would like to have that presence one day. Perhaps I will. Some days I feel like I'm almost there. Some days not. When I was a little boy, my hair was much darker red. And as you can imagine, children like to make comments about my hair. And I can tell you they weren't, "How beautiful is your hair?" No, the ladies in the grocery store said that to me, but not the children on the playground. Yes, Mikey knows. I would be walking home from kindergarten, which was just 3 short blocks from my house. I could not even walk past the school bus where all the other children were going to be driven off to their homes without someone making some reference to the carrot top. And it used to bug me so much. And I'd get to my house, and I was in kindergarten. I was 5, and I was like this fragile, vulnerable little kid. And my mother, who had the same hair I did, pulled me into her lap. She didn't say a word. She just held me. I learned to love my hair. And about the time I learned to love my hair, it began to fade.
Almost like a sign.
It's something. So, who in your life is the person with whom you can connect and there's calm? There's got to be someone. And if there's not someone, call me and I'll try and hook you up with someone I know. But for me, just walking in the back door of this building is that calm. Walking in this door is as a massage therapist, many times clients will lay down on the table, and before I have even begun to work on their bodies, they have begun to relax. Right? I have had the same experience. We're conditioned in certain circumstances to let our guards down. And so when I get onto the massage table, before the person ever touches me, I'm already 5 degrees cooler. So what do we do to nurture that kind of feeling so that when we're in situations of angst or discord, that we can become a consciousness that's healing the situation instead of a consciousness that's even more disturbing to the situation? Because we're going to contribute one way or the other. Either you're going to be contributing peace to the situation or more angst to the situation. And it's up to you. Because it works both ways. You can walk into a room and somebody gives you total peace. Or you can walk into a room and your blood is boiling and you don't even know why. It's the energy that's coming off the people. It's the energy that you're resonating with, because you're not going to sense an energy in someone else that you don't also have in yourself. So that's a little bit of a rude awakening. Sorry, folks. You're going to sense what you're putting out. And so if you want to sense a consciousness that heals, then you need to be a consciousness that heals. If you're totally fine with, the status quo, well, then just do your thing. There is a Zen proverb that tells us, while drinking a cup of tea, I stop the war. It really is as simple as stopping, making a new choice, and doing a new thing. But we have to do that. We have to not allow ourselves to be caught up in the situation. See, it's sometimes it'll just feed us to repeat the story, to tell the thing, But if we'll stop and say, do I really need to engage in this? Do I need to be part of this and make that choice?
My name is Randall Lee Jr. Will you please pray away the damned from me? The damned will not leave me alone. Please pray away. Yes. Don't pray for them. Pray against them.
It's all right. Got a practitioner on the way. It's all good. You know, I got to give somebody credit for walking into church and say, pray for me. How many of us do that? I wouldn't.
And he knew we were a church.
He's been here before.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh.
His name is Lee.
All right.
In case anyone wants to know.
Prayers for Lee.
Prayers for Lee. Actually, you know what? Let's just take a moment.
Yes, yeah.
And so I know that there is only God. It is all that is in me. It is all that is in Lee. It is all that is in any of us. And any appearance to the contrary is merely an illusion. And so I know in this moment, right here, right now, that the presence of peace, the presence of love, the presence of tranquility is the presence within Lee. It is all that he can feel. Love, peace, joy, tranquility. And so with great gratitude for knowing that all I have to do is simply bring my attention to something in order for it to be made manifest, I have brought my attention to this. And I am grateful that it is so. And so it is.
So it is.
When we come into a consciousness that heals, it's like coming back to the natural state of being. It's like coming back to the center. It's coming back, remembering who we are. If you want to see change, be change. See, it's knowing the truth of ourselves with that capital T. And what does it mean to know the truth, to embody the truth? See, it's a powerful phrase if you let it be a powerful phrase, or it's a cliche if you let it be that. But to really know the truth is to take a mental choice and say, I know this. I know this. In this situation right here, now I know the truth. Wow, I couldn't have paid him to do that and gotten a better real life example of I know the truth of Lee, right? It's not about wishing and hoping. It's not about feelings. Those are important. To know the truth means that you are embodying a consciousness that says only the truth is real in my life. Nothing else, no other appearance, only the truth is real. And so then what is the truth? In the glossary of the science of mind, this is the glossary. Just the glossary, and it's so powerful. The truth is that which is. It is reason, cause, power, in and through everything. It is birthless, deathless, changeless, complete, perfect, whole, self-existent, causeless, almighty, God, spirit, law, mind, and intelligence, and anything and everything that applies to reality. That's the truth. In the Vedic scriptures, there is a line that says, thou art that. Thou art Sat Chit Ananda, truth, consciousness, bliss. So when our consciousness is fully grounded in the truth, we can be in bliss. And see, it doesn't have to be difficult. You don't have to act like you're some holy person who sits on a hill in a cave to have this consciousness. It's available. It's the natural state of your being. You simply have to make yourself aware of it in order to be able to utilize it. There's a saying that says there's no way to peace. Peace is the way. It reveals that it's a quantum leap in our consciousness to get there. But there's nothing for you to do except to acknowledge it in order to bring yourself there. So, anyone who has overcome an addiction realizes that we're not actually curing, in a sense, the addiction. We're developing a new habit. We're replacing it with a new identity based on being another type of person, a sober person, one who's centered in truth, one who values the new habit and engenders support for living a healthier lifestyle. So sometimes we go to classes or meetings or workshops to develop this new lifestyle habit. But it's in the process, we all know, to use living our life in a more conscious way. See, whatever is coming forward in your consciousness is what you're putting your attention on. I read this great example. A teacher walked into the room and told the students there's going to be a quiz. And he walked around and put the papers face down on everybody's desks. And then he said, okay, you may turn it over. They turned it over. And he said, I would like you to write about what you see on your paper. He gave them the designated amount of time. Everybody did their writing. And he picked them all up. And he says, now I'm going to read them all to you. And he read them all out loud. On this piece of paper was one black dot in the midst of a great white field. Every single person talked about the dot. Every single person focused in on how far it was from the side or the top or the bottom and what qualities this dot had. See, if we focus in on the dot to the complete exclusion of that great white field, we're zeroing in on some problem, some situation that really doesn't need to define us. Focus on the field and not on the dot. Now, he told the students at the end, I'm not going to grade this, but it's really an interesting opportunity to check your perspective. Are you focused in on the problem? Or are you focused on the solution? Because what we focus on is what's going to expand for us. And I know that you all know that, and I know that every single week when I get up, I am not telling you anything new. And it's a little bit daunting to get up here and try and say something every week and have you say, oh, I never thought of it that way. There is a point in the supreme moment of realization where the individual merges with the universe, but not to the loss of his individuality, where a sense of the oneness of all life so enters his being that there is no sense of otherness. It is here that the mentality performs seeming miracles, because there is nothing to hinder the whole from coming through. I like to think that at some point each of us have experienced a letting go of that which separates us and a feeling of that which connects. Because it's in that space, in that consciousness, that we provide a consciousness that heals for each other. See, I can only heal what's in my sphere of influence, right? And my sphere of influence isn't everywhere that yours is. So we provide a network of consciousness. And I'll lend my consciousness to you, and you can lend it to the person behind and beyond, and you can do the same until all of our sphere of influence is being affected for the good. My affirmation this morning was to let your peace disrupt the chaos, rather than letting the chaos disrupt your peace. See, we have an influence. We are a consciousness that, I want to say it's a consciousness that heals. It absolutely can be a consciousness that heals, but we have a consciousness that directly affects every single person around us. And so it is up to us to bring a consciousness that heals. Let's pray. Just recognizing the divine as all, in all, through all. I know that consciousness, that awareness, that knowingness, that embodying of the truth is just the most important thing we can focus on. To focus on anything else is to do our own selves a disservice and a disservice to the people around us. And so I know for myself and for everyone in this room that we are ever aware of how our consciousness affects the world around us. And that we are bringing a consciousness to the world that will actually heal it. That we're healing the world in such a way so that it eventually works for everyone. From a place of wholeness, from a place of perfection, simply recognizing what we already are because it has always been there. And so with deep gratitude for knowing that all I had to do was bring my attention to it, I can simply let it be. So it is.
So it is.